Thinking about planting potatoes? Then stick around. Today we're digging into our complete potato planting guide. Come on, let's go. Hey, how you doing today? I'm Rick Bickling. On today's episode of the How Do Gardener, we're talking potatoes. We'll take a look at everything you need to know to grow your own potatoes and have a successful harvest. I'll give you step-by-step instructions on soil preparation, seed preparation, planting, watering, fertilizing, weeding, insects, diseases, harvesting, and storage. Hey, make sure you stick around to the end of the video because then I'm going to tell you how to get my ebook, which includes state-specific recommended varieties and specific planting dates for your state. Potatoes, no matter how you slice it or mash it, they're one of America's favorite vegetables both to eat and to grow. On average, we consume about 110 pounds of potatoes each every year. The edible part of the potato plant is called a tuber, not a root. They're full of energy and vitamins A, B1, B2, B5, B6, C, E, and K, and lots of micronutrients too. Potatoes grow best in full sun and in loose, slightly acidic soil that is well drained. Before planting your potatoes, make sure you remove all rocks and trash from the planting area and till the soil to about a depth of 8 to 12 inches. Unlike most vegetables, potatoes aren't really grown from seeds, but from potatoes that were grown the last season, seed potatoes. Always use certified, disease-free seed potatoes that are free of chemicals. Do not use potatoes from the grocery store. Now, the eyes on a seed potato are actually little buds that will sprout into new potato plants. You want your seed potatoes to be about the size of an egg. So if you have some that are really large, you can cut them. Just make sure that you have at least 1 or 2 eyes on each piece. Now cut the seed potatoes about 5 or 6 days before you're going to plant them and let them sit in a cool, well-ventilated area to let them cure. This will help prevent rotting once they're planted. Potatoes are cool season herbaceous perennials that are grown as an annual, and they're really one of the first vegetables you can plant in your garden every year. Potatoes can be planted once the soil temperature 5 inches deep has reached a temperature of about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 3 weeks before the last frost in your area. Now in some states, a fall crop can be planted about 110 days before the first frost. Potatoes grow best when the daytime temperatures are between about 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Plant potatoes to a depth of about 3 inches with the pieces spaced about 10 to 12 inches apart, and make sure the eye is facing up because that's where the plant grows from. You'll notice sprouts from the seed potatoes starting to emerge from the soil in about 2 to 4 weeks. Now, potatoes are a great crop to grow in your garden, but they definitely require some very specific gardening techniques. Let's talk about those right now. Now, as the new potato plants grow, you want to pile dirt around the stem up to just below the leaves. And you're going to want to continue this through the growing season. The reason you do this is because new potatoes only grow in the area just above the seed potato and below the level of the soil that the stem is in. The new potatoes grow out of the stem that's in the soil. So the more of the stem you have covered with soil, the taller the plant gets, and the more that's in the soil, the more potatoes you're going to have. Make sure to keep any of the tubers that are growing covered with soil because if the sun hits them, they'll turn green and you can't eat them. Potatoes can be easily grown in raised beds, baskets, or in old tires that are stacked up. Just be sure that whatever you plant them in is well drained. Now, potato plants usually produce flowers and sometimes small fruit, but they're not edible. They're pretty, but you can't eat them. Potatoes prefer a slightly acidic soil with a pH between 4.8 and 5.5. Apply a complete fertilizer to the top of the soil before planting your potatoes and then mix that into the soil. After your potato plants start to sprout, fertilize the plants about once a week, again with a balanced fertilizer. Once planted, make sure you water the potato plants regularly to keep the soil evenly moist. Potatoes need about 1 inch of water every week. A good tip is to water early in the morning to allow your plants time to dry throughout the day to avoid disease. Drip irrigation is a great way to get the water right to the roots of the plant. Make sure you keep your garden free of weeds because weeds will compete with your plants for soil nutrients and water. Now be careful when you're weeding. You don't want to weed or use a hoe too deep because you might damage the tubers that are growing. Now unfortunately, there are several insects that can be quite a problem for potatoes. The larvae of the Colorado potato beetle are red or light orange with 2 rows of black dots on each side, while the adult has black or yellow stripes. Both are about 3/8 of an inch long and feed on the leaves of the potato plant. The best way to remove them is to pick them off by hand. Aphids are small, whitish insects that are usually found on the underside of leaves. If present, the potato plant leaves are going to become yellow and sticky with honeydew, which unfortunately is kind of just a fancy way of saying aphid poop. To remove aphids, hose off the underside of the potato plant leaves. Wireworms are thin, about 1/2 to 1.5 inches long. Leafhoppers are green, wedge-shaped insects about 1/8 of an inch long. They'll suck the juice out of a potato plant and cause the leaves to curl up and turn yellow or brown. They can also be hosed off of the plants with a hard stream of water. Diseases and fungus may be a problem for potatoes during cool, moist weather. Check your plants regularly for any discoloration and when needed, treat with neem oil. Potatoes will be ready to harvest anywhere between 95 to 110 days depending on what area you live in. You'll know it's time to harvest them when the tops of the plants begin to wither and die. And the potatoes should weigh between 6 and 10 ounces each. Now for a special treat, carefully harvest small new potatoes during the growing season by digging into the soil by the plant with your fingers, and you can take off individual little potatoes. If you have some fresh parsley growing in your garden, boy, if you boil those things, put some fresh parsley and butter on them, salt and pepper, it's good. To harvest mature potatoes, use a spading fork to dig underneath of the plant about 8 or 10 inches out from the stem and just pry the plant up. Once you do that, you can shake off any loose soil. Now carefully pull each potato from the stem and store them in a cool, dry place. Preferably that has lots of air circulation and a temperature of about 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now do not store them in a refrigerator and do not wash them before storing them. Potatoes can be stored in a basement or a root cellar or a cool, dark place with lots of air circulation, and under the right circumstances, they'll last about 2 to 3 months. Hey, before I forget, if you found this video helpful, make sure you click on the like, give us the thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel. We're going to have lots more planting videos coming up and some other entertaining ones too. Okay, so there you have it. That's pretty much how you plant, harvest, and store potatoes. Besides knowing how to plant potatoes, you need 2 other critical factors: what type of potato to plant and when to plant them. And that varies for every state and even different areas of each state. Now that's where my ebook comes in. It's the How To Gardener Potato Planting Guide. We'll talk about everything we did today in a little bit more detail. But the most important piece of information is I've gone and researched all 50 states. I provided in the ebook a list of all the recommended varieties for each state and also the specific planting date for each state and even different parts of each state. That's not really something that lends itself to talking about 50 states and 15 varieties and harvesting dates in a video. So I put them into my ebook. Click on the link up here, order it, and you'll be all set. Happy planting and happy potato harvesting. Hey, thanks for stopping by. See ya.